Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. It's a Friday night game, the second Brazil game in NFL history. Chiefs favored by 3 as of right now. 46.5 is the over-under on FanDuel. Remember last year it was Eagles-Packers. It was a slick field. I think it was Saquon Barkley's first carry. He just slipped and goes straight down for -5. It's amazing that he got over 2,000 after starting at like -5 or whatever it was last year. But then he figured it out, rattled off some big runs in that game. But the field was an issue last year. I hope it's not. Division matchup here, Chiefs and Chargers. What are you looking for in this one?
It's grass. It will be slippy. People will fall over. People will complain about it. Let's just prepare yourself now for that.
You know that's different. You know, it's not. This doesn't happen in every grass game.
It actually does, though. It does.
It does not. Nobody comes out of
really does
games at Lambeau and they're like, man, that turf, I just
couldn't
even get my footing.
Every time there's a grass field, people go into it and they're like, great, it's grass field. It's gonna be good on your knees. You're not gonna have the ankle injuries. This is great. This is what we all want. And then it's like, why is everyone falling over? How come they're not in the right cleats? Like, why? There's always a bit. Midway through the game, the announcers go, yeah, these guys have all huddled on the sideline, guy, and they're changing all their cleats. They've gotten the 3/4 inch in now. It's like, how come you couldn't see that coming?
What percentage of NFL games are on grass?
Not like that's the
35, 40%. No. It's a big chunk. There's a big chunk.
It's not that
They're still on grass.
They're all anyway.
This happened in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Eagles, and it happened in Brazil. That's the slippiness that you're talking about. Anyway, talk about the game, Sam. That used to be one of the lines.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in this one?
I mean, quite a
bit.
A few things. Is this Chiefs offense going to show that it's actually, I don't want to say back because it's a completely different unit at this point, but can they rediscover that explosive, dynamic, unstoppable streak? Like the reason people thought Baltimore was a great matchup for Kansas City, even though that never actually turned out that way, was that the Chiefs offense was like unstoppable. It's like the only way of beating this team is to keep the offense the hell on the sideline and just run the ball forever. Keep Patrick Mahomes sitting over there with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and not have them on the field scoring points. That was the only way that you thought you could beat them because the offense was so absolutely scintillating, and then that kind of stopped being a thing. And now they're good, but they're not what they used to be. And Mahomes, we still, is he the best quarterback in the NFL? Yes or no? But we know he can or should be. It's just we haven't really seen that guy for a while outside of the postseason. So can they find that again? Like, can they snap back into that unstoppable juggernaut of an offense? Or is that just something they caught lightning in a bottle with like prime Kelce, prime Tyreek Hill, Mahomes hitting the ground running, this first few years in the NFL. And now 2 of those 3 things aren't really there, and they just have to make do with what they have.
I have a feeling the Chiefs are coming out firing here. Based off of offseason talk, and really the second straight offseason, they went into last year saying, we want to become more explosive. We have this speed now. But Marquise Brown got hurt. They started the season without him. And then Rashee Rice got hurt in week 4 against the Chargers. Rice, of course, is suspended for the first 6 games, so he won't be around here. But you have Marquise Brown off the injury report, his 4.3 speed, Xavier Worthy's 4.2 speed, Tyquan Thornton's 4.3 speed for whatever it's worth, or 4.28 or whatever he was.
A lot of fast guys.
And Kelce made a guy miss one time in the preseason, so he's back. He looks more nimble than he has in a while. He's getting, plus he's newly engaged and everything. Little spark under Travis Kelce. I have a feeling Kansas City's coming out firing, and like obnoxiously so. I really think it's one of those. They're chucking it down the field. So I might be overrating some offseason talk. I might be overrating some preseason, what we saw there, but I think they're going to be very, very aggressive. Now, on the other side, the Chargers are pretty good with their defense at thwarting the downfield passing attack. They're pretty good at, slow playing it, forcing you to throw the ball underneath. So there's going to be a balance here between here's what the Chiefs want to do and here's what the Chiefs are allowing with this Jesse Minter as defensive coordinator and this Mike McDonald all the way back to Vic Fangio derivative of let's play with the underneath area where you want to attack rather than allowing explosives, trying to avoid explosives. What?
I just, playing with the underneath area. It's just
what did I?
It's just a funny phrase.
I lost some words there. I lost what I wanted. Allowing passes underneath while trying to avoid explosives over the top. Is that better? Sorry, I sounded like a guy who doesn't know ball for there. I apologize. But I think the Chiefs come out firing.
I definitely think it's possible. I do wonder sometimes with the Chiefs, how much of this is just everyone relying on their priors. I'm not saying they're not going to be good, but this idea that they can get back to that, unstoppable offense that is only ever a second away from like boom, touchdown, blip. Like, is that ever something that's coming back? And are we just sort of, because we've seen it and it was so good for a couple of years, we're like, man, they're only ever, a fast guy away from unlocking that again? Or like, would we be making the same argument for any other team? I do wonder sometimes that you kind of get trapped in that world of just, nostalgia and wishing something back that's never actually coming back. But look, there's a reason teams chase these guys with super speed. They've already, as much as Xavier Worthy may never become, an unstoppable number one receiver that can win in all areas and all ways, like the guy had a bigger role last year than he was probably supposed to and was pretty good in it. And now, theoretically, that pressure or that workload is going to be shared around a bit. Mahomes is still special. We've seen that even when he's not playing at his best in ideal circumstances, he's capable of playing spectacular football. I do think that the Chiefs' offense has the potential this year to be better than it has been in a while.
The other part that I think the Chargers do a pretty good job of is the handling rushing lanes for the quarterback. They do a pretty good job. They'll stunt, they'll twist, they'll add an extra rusher to just slow down the escape route for the quarterback, which Mahomes obviously is great at, right? Finding, hey, if you lose a little bit of contain, or if you're an edge rusher and you go 10, 12 yards behind the quarterback, he's going to exploit that. The Chargers are also pretty good at that. So they have to be on point for all of those things, right? Trying to avoid the downfield passing attack, but also keep him in the pocket as well as they can. The left tackle matchup, Josh Simmons.
Taylor, 2 tackles.
Yes. Josh Simmons, Juwan Taylor. We'll talk about losing Rashawn Slater on the other side for the Chargers in a minute, but the new look offensive line for the Chiefs, can they get a little bit going in the run game? Their run game was, I think, ineffective last year when they wanted to run and keep things on schedule. Can they pass protect? Will they get a little bit of movement up front, that line? Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Yeah, so you got the Josh Simmons thing. Will be fascinating to watch. A guy that was coming back off a pretty devastating knee injury. A torn patella is not a gimme that you're going to come back and be the same guy right at the start of the season. When they drafted him, it was like you get the injury discount. People are comparing it to Trey Smith because of the Chiefs' medical staff, obviously. I think the more accurate comparison is maybe Jeffrey Simmons, where he had a knee injury coming into the NFL, and that was the reason he slipped as far as he did. And, okay, he didn't make it back for week 1 that year, right? It took him a few weeks to get on the field. But once he was back, he was a dominant force. So you kind of got this discount that it didn't cost you anything. Like, there was no downside other than a week or two. For Simmons, it's literally been cost-free. Like, he's going to be playing week 1 by the sounds of it, and if he's the guy that he was before the injury, that's potentially an absolute steal for them. So you've got watching Simmons to begin with. The other side of the Chiefs line I think will be interesting. I wonder if this might be a better season from Juwan Taylor than we've seen for a while. I kind of think I compare his year to Terry and Arnold, where right at the start of his rookie season, in Arnold's case, the Lions cornerback, he got flagged a bunch, where they just started throwing flags left and right because he got too grabby, too physical, and suddenly it's like, oh, the way you want to play the game, not going to fly. You're going to have to completely change what you're doing. Not only have you got to learn how to play in the NFL, but you have to learn how to play a different way than you were planning on playing because we've just thrown like 4 flags in 3 weeks, right? They cranked down on Juwan Taylor's like, I'm going to cheat back from the line as much as possible and get an early start. Juwan Taylor was always like pushing the boundaries of that in his career. And then randomly the NFL just decided, all right, that's enough. We're not letting that happen anymore. We're going to start flagging it. And Juwan Taylor copped a bunch of penalties right at the start of the year. Again, you're like telling a guy, now it's, you can shuffle forward a bit. It's not that hard. But like you're basically rewiring a guy's technique on the fly in the middle of the season. There's no way that doesn't mess with his head a little bit. This year, they're probably not going to focus on it again that much, if at all. Maybe Juwan Taylor can go back to just being, I'm going to jump early. I'm going to get
year 3 for Taylor.
I know.
With that.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not he's never been exceptional, right? He's never likely to be a top tier player, but I wonder, like, he's been closer to problematic at times for the Chiefs than he has been like a real plus player that they signed in free agency. I wonder if you're going to get a bit of a bounce back year from him because they're probably not going to be focusing on that element as much.
Yeah, keep an eye on that entire matchup. Khalil Mack, Tui Peloto, rushing off the edge against the two tackles for the Chiefs. The other thing where I feel confident about the Chiefs' offense, if Josh Simmons is as advertised, even if he's just better than what they've had at left tackle the last 2 years, that's a low bar. When they've put Wanye Morris out there, Kingsley Suamataia, it's a low bar, and I think that's been a huge part of the Chiefs' offense not performing. Other side of the ball, I think always against the Chiefs, you got to make some special plays. Justin Herbert, they're going to have to create some explosives. They have to figure out, I mean, Ladd McConkey looks like a star. His ability to win, he can win outside, inside, speed, quicks, had a great rookie season, but the whole offseason question is who are the complements to him? They bring back Keenan Allen. You still have Quentin Johnston. Then you have the two rookies who had a really nice preseason. Keandre Lambert-Smith as a fifth-rounder, Trey Harris as a second-rounder, who emerges now as the options opposite Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, just what does that whole receiving core end up looking like? This is a longer question than week one, but over the course of the season, what is that receiving group going to look like? Because you've got one proven high-quality, high-volume player in Ladd McConkey. Everything else is up for grabs. Quentin Johnston is still there trying to resuscitate his NFL career. Then you've got two rookies who could easily both jump him on the depth chart. Like, it's a completely fluid situation, I think. You've also got the backfield of, Marion Hampton, the first-round draft pick, the guy with dynamism and athleticism and explosiveness, and then Najee Harris, who we basically haven't seen because he had that fireworks incident, was half blinded for the offseason. But now he's supposed to be ready to go and could be the quote-unquote starter. And who knows how much of Marion Hampton's workload Najee Harris is going to eat into in this. Never presume to think what a Harbaugh, Greg Roman backfield is going to look like. Remember how frustrating, just the Greg Roman element of it was for years in Baltimore, trying to predict what it would look like or how it should be deployed. This could be chaos. Like we assume it'll be a Marion Hampton with for a large degree, with Najee Harris taking some of the workload. But what if it's Najee Harris and Hampton's just like the random change of pace explosive guy that comes in?
Najee's the type of guy that could just crank out 3 to 4 yards per carry and play that game that we're talking about, that we've talked about for years, keeping the Chiefs off the field.
Right.
But Hampton, I think, has the big playability that you want to tap into. One of the first things I also look at, Rashawn Slater's out for the season, of course, at left tackle. That moved second-year right tackle Joe Waltz to the left side. Trey Pipkins, who's been probably a below-average tackle for the majority of his career. He'll step in as the starting right tackle. One of the first things I think about with the Chiefs' defense every week is who's the right tackle that Chris Jones is going to go up against. George Karlaftis will face him most of the time, but we know Chris Jones in key situations, when it's 3rd and 10, with the game on the line, will go up against the right tackle. And much like we always talk about Dexter Lawrence and how extreme he is at doing one thing better than everyone else, rushing the passer from nose tackle, Chris Jones rushes off the edge better than any defensive tackle in the NFL. It's a very specific thing, but he's the one defensive tackle that you could put out on the edge and have him win at the same rate as a Micah Parsons or a Nick Bosa or a Myles Garrett, a top edge rusher. So how many times does Chris Jones go up against Trey Pipkins, and how does the Chargers offense handle that? That's going to be another thing to keep an eye on when it's in the third, fourth quarter, 3rd and 11, Chris Jones coming off the edge.
Yeah, Jones is just able to identify a matchup that he likes and then decide, on 3rd and 12, I'm just going to go out there and win that matchup. And it's freaky how the regularity with which he's able to do that. So, yeah, I don't like Trey Pipkins' chances of matching up particularly well with Chris Jones when he decides it's time to unleash that. What kind of impact can that have on the game will be a good one to watch.
Last thing, Tershawn Wharton's off to Carolina from Kansas City. Their depth took a bit of a hit on the defensive line. We know Jones is still a stud. They brought Derek Nottie back. Like they felt a little concerned about their defensive tackle situation and in the preseason. If the Chargers can get a little push up front and play the ball control game, I think they can keep it close. And yeah, I think it's another close game that we're talking about here, and it comes down to what Kansas City always did last year was find a way to make 1 or 2 more plays. Chargers need to find a way to flip the script there. I mentioned the Ravens schedule. I just want to touch on it quickly. The Chiefs have something similar They have the Chargers week 1, challenging game, playoff team, division game. Eagles are in week 2, coming to Arrowhead. Then they have the Giants week 3, but then the Ravens, Jaguars, and Lions. So much like the Ravens are playing, a bunch of elite teams right up front, the Chiefs have a similar type of run at the top here. So the first few weeks are massive for the Chiefs just to go ahead and try to get that number 1 overall seed.
The one thing that I'm most interested in this game is that Chiefs offense, though. Not just is it more dynamic, explosive, but does it change its approach? I mean, according to Sumer Sports last year, the Chiefs led the NFL effectively in short percentage of their passing depth. They had a dink and dunk offense, right? They passed short and they did not have a lot of deep attempts. They weren't explosive, right? Where does that go to? Forget this game, but overall the season. Do they push all the way back up to the other end of the spectrum? Are they just somewhere in the middle? Patrick Mahomes should not be operating a dink and dunk offense. That's just not what you want to see from one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. You want to see Patrick Mahomes out there scrambling, making ridiculous plays, and then heaving the ball 50 yards on a rope to Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, the guys they have right now. They should not be the bottom of the NFL in terms of short passing percentage.
I think there's a lot of 3 and 4 vertical concepts, like the way they're going to get into them. I'm just seeing an aggressive Chiefs team. Chiefs by 3 here, Friday night, 46.5 is the over-under. From FanDuel, where are you going with this one?
I went with the Chiefs.
I'll also take the Chiefs, as will Harry. So all in lockstep there. 3 of us taking the Chiefs. We're 3 games in, making a great pace here. These are the bigger games. They deserve a little bit more.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?